The whole farm was deeply divided on the subject of the windmill. Snowball did not deny to Bill it would be a difficult business. Stone would have to be carried and built up into the walls. Then the sails would have to be made. After that, there would be need for dominoes and cables. How these were to be perceived, Snowball did not say, but he maintained that it could be done in a year. Thereafter, he declared how much labor would be saved. The animals would only need to work 3 days a week. Napoleon, on the other hand, argued that the great need of movement to increase food production was a waste of time on the windmill. They would all starve to death. The animals formed themselves into two factions, so vote for Snowball for 3 days a week, and vote for Napoleon for a full manger. Benjamin was the only animal who was not sided by the faction. He refused to believe in that food would become more plentiful, or that the windmill would save work. When more noble, he sighed for what life go on, said all that it is badly. Apart from the disputes over the windmill, there was the question of society. It was realized, though the human beings had been defeated in the Battle of Cowshed, they might make another, more determined attempt to recapture the barn and reinstate Mr. Jones. There had been more reason for doing so because the news of their defeat had spread across the countryside and made the animals on the neighboring farms more resistive than ever. Usually, Snowball and Napoleon were in a disagreement. According to Napoleon, the animals must do to proceed with firearms and train themselves in the use of them. According to Snowball, they must send out more pigeons to stir up rebellion among the animals on the other farms. One argued if they could not defend themselves, they were bound to be conquered. The other argued if the rebellions happened everywhere, there'd be no need to defend themselves. The animals listened first to Napoleon, then to Snowball, and could not make up their minds which was right. Indeed, they had always found themselves in a moment of agreement with one who was speaking at the last moment. At the last day, Snowball's plans were complete at the meeting the following Sunday. The question was to begin work on the windmill was at a boat. The animals assembled in the big barn. Snowball stood up, though occasionally interrupted by the bleating of the sheep, except for his reasons for building the windmill. Then Napoleon stood up to reply. He said quietly the windmill was nonsense, and there was nobody to vote, and sat down again. He had spoken barely for 30 seconds. Something almost indifferent. As Snowball sprang onto his feet, shot down the sheep, who had been bleeding again, broke into a passion of appeal in favor of the windmill. Until now, the animals had been equally divided in their sympathy. But in a moment, Snowball's equality had carried them away. In a glowing sentence, he painted a picture of Animal Farm. It might have been so. Animals lifted from the sword leg was lifted from the animal's back. His imagination had been far out beyond chaff cutters and turnip slicers. Electricity, he said, could operate the threshing machines, plows, harrows, rollers, the reapers, and the binders, besides supplying every stall with development. Electricity, light, hot and cold water, and electric heater. By the time he had finished speaking, there was no doubt who the vote was going to go to. But just at this moment, Napoleon stood up and cast a peculiar silence, or uttered a high-pitched whimper, the kind no one had ever heard. It was at this terrible baying sound outside 9 enormous dogs wearing brass-studded collars came bounding into the barn. They dashed straight for Snowball, sprang from his place just in time to escape their snapping jaws. In a moment, he was out the door. They were after him, too amazed and too frightened. All the animals crowded through the door to watch the chase. Snowball was racing across the long pasture that led to the road. He was running only as a pig could run, but the dogs were close on his heels. Suddenly he slipped. It seemed uncertain that they had him. Yet he came up, running faster than ever. Then the dogs were gaining on him again. One of them, all close, his jaws on Snowball's tail, but Snowball was free just in time to put an extra spurt. With a few inches to spare, slipped through a hole in the hedge, and was seen no more. Silent and terrified, the animals crept back into the barn, where the dogs came bounding back. At first, no one was able to imagine these creatures came from. The problem was solved. They were the puppies whom Napoleon had taken from their mothers, reared up privately. Though not fully grown, they were huge dogs, fierce-looking as wolves. They kept close to Napoleon. It was noticed they wagged their tails to him the same way that dogs used to do to Mr. Jones.
Brutus, I'm sorry. That's what the book says.
I'm not doing anything. I'm just reading from the book. All right.